All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Attorney General Dave Sunday, and we're here in State College today to announce charges against more than a dozen individuals in connection with a drug trafficking operation revolving around a pair of fraternities for Penn State University students. All but one of the charged defendants were Penn State University students at or around the time of this alleged criminal conduct. These charges were the result of a long-term investigation between the Office of Attorney General, Bureau of Narcotics Investigation, State College Police Department, and a pair of statewide investigating grand juries impaneled by my office. What we learned during this investigation was that between 2023 and 2024, large amounts of cocaine, kilos, were brought from Philadelphia and New York to State College, where they were cut and packaged for sale primarily to Penn State students. The two main dealers, the top of the chain, if you will, were senior members of the Delta, Upsilon, and Sigma Chi fraternities. Agostino Abatiello was at the very top of the chain. Thomas Robinson was a rung below that on the ladder. And this poster here shows Operation Drugs Unlimited, and it shows the hierarchy of the organization. The evidence presented to the grand jury led to a recent presentment and recommendation of charges against 14 defendants. The evidence showed that cocaine was primarily packaged at the fraternity houses and that packaging was done by fraternity brothers and oftentimes pledges. In fact, we found a pattern of events that showed cutting and bagging cocaine was, for some pledges, an indoctrination into the Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi fraternities. Before I get into further details on the investigation and conduct, let me tell you about the charges. And I want to emphasize that all of these individuals are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Agostino Abatiello, Thomas Robinson, and two others, Mohammed Harabi and Lars Ziepfat, are charged with felony corrupt organizations because this was a coordinated and organized cocaine trafficking operation with regular trips to those source cities and large amounts of cocaine being brought back to these fraternities. They are also charged with conspiracy, dealing in proceeds of unlawful activity, and related offenses. A fifth person, Robert Zanola, is charged with felony conspiracy and criminal use of communication facility and related misdemeanors. These are the 5 primary dealers. The 8 other student-age defendants in this case have been charged with misdemeanor counts of drug possession and paraphernalia. The only non-student charge is Thomas Robinson's father, Paul Robinson, who we allege took steps to conceal evidence, including a safe containing drugs and cash, and obstruct this investigation. All are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. I know there may be many questions about the university in regards to these students and this conduct. This is very serious criminal conduct. There was nothing junior or childlike about this type of conduct. This was an upper-level trafficking organization for this region in Pennsylvania. In fact, multiple witnesses who testified in front of the grand jury referred to Abatiello as the largest dealer of cocaine for Penn State University students. Regarding the university's knowledge or actions in response to this conduct, in consideration of the confidential nature of the grand jury proceedings and ongoing active prosecutions, I can say this: we did not hear of any drug packaging happening on Penn State's campus. Again, the packaging happened at off-campus fraternity houses. And the actual drug dealing was largely from friend to friend, fraternity brother to fraternity brother, acquaintance to acquaintance, and at fraternity houses and or during parties or social engagements. With regard to parents that might be watching this and thinking about what's happening at the school, I just want to say this. There is no city, county, community that exists that doesn't have to deal with issues such as drug use, drug dealing, addiction, and things of that nature. This is something that occurs all throughout our country and all throughout the world. And that being said, we take it very, very seriously, which is why we conducted this investigation, which is why we filed the charges we filed. And I will say that not only have we filed these charges, but I promise you that we will be watching. For students who think about going to college, being away from home for the first time, and having an opportunity to kind of do what they want, they need to understand that there are always going to be ramifications for your actions. And just because you're at college and you're making money and you think that this is something you can get away with, it's not. It's extremely serious. Law enforcement takes it extremely seriously, and we will continue to investigate and prosecute individuals that decide to deal drugs on college campuses. So how do we get to this point today? This conduct regards trafficking that happened throughout 2023 and 2024. Law enforcement employed a number of investigative tactics to identify the individuals involved, how they were obtaining the cocaine, and methods of packaging and distribution. The grand jury presentment recommending charges is available to you, as it is the affidavit of probable cause attached to the filed criminal complaints. You will read about the runs to Philadelphia and New York, the large quantities of cocaine that came back from these sources, and the transactions, large and small, that followed. I will note that Thomas Robinson was charged previously as well in December of 2024 with drug dealing. Charges against all 14 defendants were filed this morning. The majority of those with felony charges were arraigned this morning, with the exception of Abatiello. A warrant has been issued for his arrest. I want to conclude by thanking the members of my office, the Office of Attorney General, the agents and the attorneys, and the State College Police Department for their diligent work, their investigation, and the time that they committed to this investigation that we're here to talk about today. I want to thank the grand jurors for their diligence while hearing from the many witnesses who provided testimony and evaluating that testimony before ultimately recommending the charges that we have filed today. At this time, I will note that this is an ongoing investigation. There are certain secrecy aspects that are still in place. And obviously, with that being said, there are certain things we cannot discuss at this time, but to the best of our ability, we will answer the questions that we can. So if anyone has any questions, we will take those questions now.
Do you know if any of them are still Penn State students, or?
As of now, none of them are still, the 14 individuals that we filed charges against, none of which are still Penn State students.
With the charges dating back to 2023 or the investigation, some might ask, why weren't these folks arrested earlier if they were doing this amount of drugs?
So the incidents occurred during the course of 2023, 2024, and that's when obviously we then were brought in. Investigations of this nature take time. They're very detailed, and what we wanted to do was make sure that we took the time to arrest all of these individuals so that we could do our best to root out this criminal organization to stop it from being able to continue to deal cocaine in the future.
You said pledges were sometimes made to package cocaine as part of initiation. Are there going to be any hazing-like charges filed or anything of that nature?
Well, so this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about this is an ongoing investigation. We're here today to discuss the 14 defendants and specifically the drug charges that were filed against them. All right, hearing no further questions, thank you for being here this morning. And again, I want to thank the hard work of the law enforcement agents that worked on this case. I want to thank the prosecutors that worked on this case. I want to thank the analysts and everyone else that collectively put in their time to make sure that we could do everything we can to get these drugs off the streets. Thank you. All right. Where they were cut and packaged for sale primarily to Penn State students. The two main dealers, the top of the chain, if you will, were Operation Drugs Unlimited, and it shows the hierarchy of the organization. The evidence presented to the grand jury led to a recent presentment and showed that cocaine was primarily packaged at the fraternity houses, and that packaging was done by fraternity brothers and oftentimes pledges. Indoctrination into the Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi fraternities. Before I get into further details on the investigation and conduct, let me tell you, ZFAT are charged with felony corrupt organizations because this was a coordinated and organized cocaine trafficking operation with regular. A fifth person, Robert Zanola, is charged with felony conspiracy and criminal use of communication facility